everyone. Excited to have you join us for our second expert session with Uplift. We have Mark joining us today to talk about product market fit signals. And with that, I'll introduce you guys to him. Hey, Mark.
How's it going, everyone? How's it going, Kennedy?
Take
Okay,
it away.
let's share the screen. Okay, today is really about learning how to recognize real demand versus false signals. This applies whether you're building a B2C or B2B platform. A lot of founders think that they have product market fit because they're getting attention, activity, or positive feedback, but real demand looks very different. Next slide. So a little bit about myself. I have both been a founder. I have founder experience and product management experience on an enterprise level across multiple industries. That combination gave me the ability to see how companies actually scale correctly from the inside. And on the founder side, I've seen also what it looks like to skip the signal and scale before the market is truly pulling the product. I now have my own advisory firm called Northgate Operations, and I am a mentor for 2 VC firms, and I partner with their portfolio companies. So most of what I'm going to be sharing today really comes from pattern recognition, seeing the same mistakes and same success signals that happen repeatedly across different companies. Next slide. So most startups don't fail because the product is bad. They fail because the market never cared enough. I'm going to say it again. Most startups don't fail because the product is bad. They fail because the market never cared enough. So usually the issue isn't effort. Founders often move faster in the wrong direction. So more features, more outreach, and more activity don't automatically mean more demand. A lot of startups fail because the market never cared deeply enough in the first place. Next slide. Okay, so interest versus real demand. And honestly, this might be one of the most important slides in this presentation. A lot of founders confuse attention with demand. So for both B2C and B2B companies, interest can look encouraging early. In B2C, it might look like a lot of downloads, signups, likes, wait lists. In B2B, it might look like demo calls, pilot conversations, introductions, or hearing things like, this is interesting. But interest alone doesn't mean the market truly cared. Next slide. So for this story is about the startup that I founded called Razoo. Razoo was a collaboration platform for artists in the music industry. I initially created Razoo on campus in college at St. John's University. I had a lot of peers who wanted to become singers, rappers, songwriters, engineers in the music industry. And a lot of them were living on campus and they were coming from different parts of the world. So DC, California, Florida, overseas. And they couldn't make music with the people that they normally created music with. So I wanted to create a platform that allowed people to come together and create virtually without having to be in the same music studio. So post-college, while building Razoo, I'm meeting so many singers. I'm meeting a lot of rappers. I'm meeting so many producers, a lot of songwriters, and I'm doing customer discovery, learning about what their experiences were, what they needed the most from the platform, and I was building for all of them. And as time went on, I realized they all had completely different workflows. That's what taught me you can't dominate 5 segments if you haven't nailed one yet. And I think today, a great example, if we're going to stay in music, would be Spotify, right? Spotify could have expanded into podcasts and audiobooks immediately because it was all audio, but instead they dominated music first. A lot of early stage founders do the opposite. We expand before fully winning the original market. Spotify expanded from a place of at a position of strength. Early founders often expand out of uncertainty. Feel free to go to the next slide. And to all the founders here, hopefully you're building a painkiller, not a vitamin. I'm going to say that again. Hopefully you're building a painkiller, not a vitamin. Painkillers solve recurring pain. Vitamins are nice to have. The real question founders should ask themselves is, would people genuinely notice a difference if your platform disappeared tomorrow? The stronger the pain, the stronger the pull from the market. Next slide. Okay, so what product market fit actually looks like? The pattern across all these successful companies that you guys see here is behavior change. So think of Slack. Slack changed the way we communicated. We no longer spoke internally via email. We just went to Slack. Think of Stripe. Stripe changed developer workflows. So now instead of trying to make a payment system, a lot of developers integrated Stripe to be their payment system. And instead of, like I said, building from scratch. Think of how Instagram replaced existing habits when it came to photos. Product market fit is not people saying they like the product, it's people changing the behavior because of it. And at some point, the product starts pulling users naturally. Next slide. Okay, painkiller signals by channels. So B2B and B2C startups have different signals. And that's important because founders sometimes compare them incorrectly. So with B2C, think about users who return without a push notification. Think about Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp. How often are people returning to the platform without having to receive a notification or a reminder to be on the platform, right? And B2B, especially when it comes to enterprise, sometimes validation takes longer. Sales cycles are slower, budgets are slower, implementation might be slower. So even one bad quarter in B2B doesn't mean it's automatic failure, right? But if it's in someone's job description to keep it running, that's one of the strongest B2B signals possible. Because once your product becomes operational necessary, you're no longer just a nice to have. Think about Shopify, right? There's a lot of e-commerce brands where their whole back end is on Shopify. So imagine if Shopify were to shut down, what would happen to all of those brands? Think about QuickBooks and accounting. Think about people in the healthcare space. Think about Epic for hospitals. These are the foundations of the when it comes from an operational standpoint for a lot of these companies. So these are really, really great signals and technically painkillers if those products were to be removed from the hospitals, those e-commerce brands, or people doing their accounting. Next slide. Okay, signs that you don't have product market fit yet. One is you explain what you do differently every time you pitch. Churn is high, but you're blaming it on onboarding. For B2B companies, you're winning deals on founder relationships, not product value. So just think about the amount of times maybe you're getting clients, but you're getting clients off the strength of them knowing you. I know Mark, so hey, I'm going to try this out. That's not necessarily product market fit, right? Your best users and average users look nothing alike. That's not good. You're excited about new features, but not retention numbers. And for B2C companies, your daily, monthly, or monthly active user ratio is under 20%. So that would generally mean people have signed up for your platform, but they forgot about it. Next slide. Vanity metrics, right? Vanity metrics are very dangerous. They become dangerous because they create confidence in the wrong directions. So downloads without retention mean very little. A pilot is not automatically a customer. Big logos and activity can sometimes hide the reality that the market still isn't deeply attached to the product. One thing that I didn't mention about the company that I founded, Razoo, I had a partnership with the New Jersey Devils. And in this partnership, Razoo's logo was on the helmet for all away games for the New Jersey Devils. So any time they traveled to Vancouver or LA or Edmonton, As long as it was a road game for this season, Razu's logo was everywhere for all of away games. And honestly, that's just vanity metrics. It feels good, even though you can't say the New Jersey Devils are a Fortune 500 company, but everyone knows the New Jersey Devils. If you're in New Jersey, if you're a fan of sports, you know that team. But once again, that's just vanity metrics. Next slide. When it comes to customer discovery, founders need to realize that they're always learning. Never get into a conversation assuming that you know what a person or company wants or needs. Genuinely ask questions. Don't turn anything into a sales call. Everyone in here knows exactly how it feels when someone is trying to sell you a product or service. It doesn't feel good. Have questions, just ask questions. In the sense of Razu, I can't assume that every musician or every singer wants to collaborate with somebody. Why don't I just ask questions first? Why don't I just say, hey, I see you're a songwriter. I'd love to learn more about your workflow. I'm working on something that might help you, but would love to learn more first. That's a lot easier than just selling what I'm creating. So a lot of people don't mind a 15 or 20-minute conversation. So when you get into customer discovery, I might learn, hey, I don't like collaborating with other people, or I only collaborate with this one person, and that person is my cousin. I don't need a tool. Or maybe I learn, I collaborate with people across country. It's really slow. I need a solution, XYZ. Have genuine questions. Don't make it a sales pitch. Next slide. Retention versus acquisition. Acquisition can make things look healthy for a while, but retention usually tells the real story. If people keep coming back without needing to be pushed, that's a real good signal. And honestly, real product market fit usually feels less like convincing people and more like trying to keep up. Next slide. Okay, messaging versus product pivot. A lot of founders struggle with knowing when to pivot. Sometimes the product is actually fine, but the messaging, the positioning, or target customer is off. And other times, user behavior starts showing you that the product itself needs to evolve. And this is why founders need to pay close attention to what retained users consistently do with the product, not just what people are saying in conversation. And sometimes founders try to pivot too early. So I would say if you barely have users, if you barely have retention or real feedback loops yet, there may not even be enough signal to pivot from in the first place. So worry about gaining customers, and with the customers, the people that are on your platform, whether you are a B2C or B2B platform, then have those conversations, then seeing what's working, what's not. From there, you could get a lot more information to know if you need to pivot your messaging or if you need to pivot the product. Next slide. And my last slide, a segment is not a limitation. It's your launchpad. I'm going to repeat that because this is something that I needed to learn as well. A segment is not a limitation. It's your launchpad. A lot of founders, we chase our TAM, our total addressable market, too early. But sharp pain matters more than broad opportunity. Clarity beats effort, and signal beats activity. Product market fit usually doesn't feel like pushing harder. It feels like the market is finally pulling back. And honestly, for a lot of founders in this room, I know the reason that this happens. You're either very, very passionate about what you're trying to solve. And for some of you, you might even be subject matter experts at what you're building. And that passion naturally makes you want to solve the entire problem in totality. I know how that feels. Trust me, as I talked about Razu, I was trying to solve for the whole music industry, not just singers, not just rappers, not just producers or engineers. I wanted to solve for everybody. But picking a segment isn't limiting yourself. It's creating a launch pad. It's how you earn the right to expand later. The companies that scale the best usually dominate one painful workflow first and then grow outward from a position of strength. So once again, keep in mind of how I could have done better with Razoo. Maybe I should have built a tool that was just for engineers and let engineers master the platform, or let songwriters master the platform and be my only focus. But what I chose to do was try to solve for everybody. Once again, look at the companies that are successful. Think of Spotify. Spotify had one launch pad. Spotify did not work on audiobooks until what, 10, 15 years later. Pick one segment, just one segment. That's all I have for today. I'm not sure if there's any questions for me.
Hey, Mark, we got a couple of questions in the chat, so I can put them up on the screen, and then maybe you could share a little bit more.
Sure.
One of the questions from MJ was, how would you recommend turning vanity signals into tangible outcomes for founders who have downloads, interests, etc.?
Once again, think about retention, right? So are people staying on the platform? Once again, going to B2C, think of all the apps that you might have on your phone, whether you use Instagram or LinkedIn, right? You don't need a notification to check these platforms. When it comes to downloads, you want people to go back to your platform, or you want to see that interest or even signups were from people that you didn't even speak to, right? That means the message was spreading. If you have a sign up of 50 people and 48 of them are people that you personally spoke with, that's not the greatest thing. But imagine you did a sign up and you only spoke to 40 people about it, and it spread and spread. And before you knew it, there was over 600 signups. That's great. So I would look at it from that standpoint. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think it definitely answered the question. This one actually came from me, but could you share a little bit more about how you landed that first partnership with the sports team?
Yeah.
And at that point, did you feel like, oh, it's really working, this is going to keep working? Or was there a different point where you first started feeling that major traction?
Yeah, so the New Jersey Devils had a program for New Jersey entrepreneurs, and I guess they were trying to look for companies that were a great fit. So obviously, Razoo being a music company and entertainment, the New Jersey Devils, they play in Prudential Center. At the time, they had the Grammy Museum, so they had a lot of partnership with music. So sports and music being entertainment. That same Prudential Center is also being utilized for concerts. So it made a lot of sense. And I believe because concerts are coming into Prudential Center, they have relationships with record labels. So that's how I landed that partnership. I was getting good buzz, as a matter of fact. So I remember instantly the second the New Jersey Devils, as an away team, the second they got on the rink, you're starting to see, I'm starting to get not notification. I'm starting to see signals on my dashboard that people are looking up what's Razoo. People are going to the site. So that's good signal in a sense, but at the same time, those weren't songwriters, right? Those weren't rappers. It was so I would consider that more on the vanity side. So it's good traction, but that's not the specific traction that I was looking for. So not that it didn't help validate the brand in a sense. So it's like when it came to conversations with record labels or artists and all that, once they saw the association with the New Jersey Devils, that definitely helped the conversation a lot. Like, okay, this is a real company. They must be doing something right. So from that standpoint, it was major help. And we actually did do a lot of collaborations with the New Jersey Devils. So if anyone here is familiar with going to a hockey game, there's 2 20-minute periods between breaks. And during that, we would do a lot of music activation with our brand. So we would have artists on our platform whose songs made it to the Jumbotron. And then we would have artists perform during the intermissions. So it was a lot of great opportunities, a lot of great collaboration. But once again, being more focused with my target market, it didn't necessarily solve that problem, but it was a very great lead magnet to utilize that as a conversation starter with different record labels, or when it was B2C with different rappers and songwriters saying, hey, like, look what we're doing over here. So it gave us a validity, but at the same time, it still became more like from a vanity metric. And going back to a lot of companies that we see today, they would have these big logos on their homepage, like partnered with or trusted by, and it looks good, but you don't really necessarily know the relationship that they have with that company, right? Are those companies that you have, are they paying customers, or are they like affiliates or things of that nature? So once again, just because you see big logos, that's not necessarily product market fit.
So that adds a lot of context, and I think it also certainly shows the power of visibility.
Yeah.
We got a couple questions from the cohort. We'll start with Rajesh. Rajesh wants to know if you could double click on the Spotify product focus. Can we apply the same context for B2B sales as a software service, a new product category versus existing product feature enhancements or sub
Can you
product?
read that again? No, just going through that again.
We want to double click on the Spotify product focus. Can we
Mhm.
apply the same concept for B2B SaaS, a new product category versus an existing product feature enhancement or sub product category?
Yeah, going back to, okay, so Spotify, once again, Spotify dominated the market for music audio, right? And when they did that, of course, Spotify made feature enhancements and sub products within audio, right? They continue to do that. So think of playlists, right? I'm sure there was a time that Spotify didn't necessarily have playlists. What are other features that we could think of? Or sharing, how now Spotify allows you to engage in sharing your music with other friends, being able to see what your friends are and family are listening to, right? They focused on audio, and that's really good. But the thing is, as founders, at times, a lot of times we're creating new product categories and not necessarily mastering the initial product category. And we tried to build too much. Like I said, going back to Razoo, right? Had I mastered one thing, I could have then expanded. It would have been a lot easier to transition to new things. People would have been gravitated to my platform already versus basically you could say, jack of all trades, master of none. That's something that we as founders tend to do a lot, where we don't master a segment at all. So with Spotify, they mastered the segment with audio. They had majority market share when it came to music streaming. Apple Music didn't come later. So I think Apple Music came in 2015, 2016. But even Apple, right? Apple Music is only a thing because we already have so many people who have an iPhone, where now it's just a click of a button that Apple Music is integrated to your phone. So that's actually how a lot of people who are on the Apple Music side transition to music streaming when it came to choosing between Apple Music and Spotify. Apple was already part of their ecosystem, so maybe they weren't music streamers yet, right? So now it's a lot easier to just integrate that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Apple Music button is on the bottom of our of our iPhones, right? So once again, dominating a segment, having a market, huge market share on something before introducing a product.
Great. We have time for, there's two more questions here. I'll add them to the screen. So Mark wants to know, what are the best ways to get messaging to consumers in a B2C play?
The best way to get messaging to consumers. Well, I think it all starts with customer discovery, right? With customer discovery, if a lot of people are stating pain points or stating something that they need, utilize those words in your messaging. What we tend to do is we tend to go the Apple approach and just utilizing like words like think big or this and that, when you should be utilizing messaging that actually speaks to your customer, especially if you're in a niche segment. Utilize with customer discovery, speaking with your customers, learning what they like, what they don't like. When I did customer discovery for music, after about 30 or 50 calls, specifically with engineers, you were hearing a lot of buzzwords that they kept using, that they kept saying, I'm not a fan of this, or I really love this. You steal those words and put that as your messaging on your homepage. Put that as your messaging on your outreach. Put those words on your post on LinkedIn, on different social medias. So that's how I would go about it. It's kind of based on what the customer is saying and just reiterating that. How do you pick us? Great question. I think today, I think what's the lowest hanging fruit? So maybe for some people, it's a lot easier to get a specific segment based off of your experience or background or your knowledge. Also, maybe some people they might have a foundational product, and you're kind of seeing what sticks with specific users more. So, for example, with Razoo, maybe I was marketing to different singers, different rappers, different producers, right? And I see that this platform gravitated more towards singers than anything. So instead of trying to build for everybody and trying to make new features or new outcomes for producers, you know what? The singers here are giving positive feedback. They're seeing more value to this tool. Let's focus more on singers. So some of it is a little bit of knowledge and expertise, but once again, it's also seeing how the market utilizes the tool and seeing who's utilizing the tool a lot longer. Maybe there's with analytics on your platform, you're seeing specific segments are retaining it more, whether it's an age group, whether it's a gender, whether it's a geographic location. Maybe Razoo is a lot more valuable in London or Lagos than it is over here. So maybe we should just pivot and try to dominate the market in London. That's also another thing that could be a possibility for anybody here, where if you're New Jersey based, but for whatever reason, people in, I don't know, in Puerto Rico or something just choose to value this material more. I like to just utilize music as a reference, obviously being a music founder and also just being a fan of music, where when it comes to artists and their tours, right, they're taking the analytics, the streaming analytics, to seeing where are majority of their fans. A lot of our fans are in New York City. Okay, let's do a tour in New York City. A lot of our fans are in Memphis. Okay, let's go to Memphis. Or we have so many fans in Los Angeles that we can do 4 dates in Los Angeles. So analytics is definitely going to help you figure out who to really focus on more.
Thank you, Mark. We're just as about time. Obviously, there was a ton of good nuggets that you shared about knowledge and the experience of being a founder. If there was one takeaway that you'd hope that viewers left with, or something that you'd urge them to start today, what would it be?
2. I'll give you 2. 1, going back to being a painkiller, not a vitamin. We all know that we should be taking our vitamins every day. Some people can do it consistently, some don't, but it's almost like it is what it is. But a painkiller is urgent. You want your platform to be urgent. You want your platform to be the reason why, if it's B2B, be the reason why someone is succeeding or someone maintains their job, or this is the reason why we increased revenue, right? Be a painkiller, not a vitamin. And 2, when it comes to finding, I guess you could say, your customer profile, finding your target market, you want to be so specific that it almost feels like you don't have an audience. The reason you do that is when you become so pinpointed on who your customer is, it's undeniable who they are, and it's undeniable that they will see this as a painkiller for them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mark. Enjoy the rest of your day. We appreciate you taking the time
Really
to join us.
appreciate it. Have a great one, everyone.
You as well.